Welcome into a brand new edition of the 06010 ESPN Communications podcast. I'm your host, Alex Feuz, and we are joined by the one and only Paul Biancardi, the National Recruiting Director and high school basketball analyst. He'll be on the call tonight for the McDonald's All-American games. The girls play at 6:30 on ESPN2 and the boys at 9 on ESPN. Paul, this is your busy time of year. How fun is this time of year for you?
Alex, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. You must be low on content guest, so I'm happy to be here.
It's
No,
not
really,
true.
this is
Not true.
not true. Okay. This is the most exciting time of the year for me as a basketball person because we're at the end of the high school basketball season. The McDonald's All-American game, as you mentioned, is Tuesday night. It starts at 6:30, the girls, 9 p.m., the boys. And then I transition to the Chipotle Nationals, which we cover, and it's a national high school championship for the best 8 boys in the country. We're down to a Final Four in college basketball, and the NBA is just finishing up, and there's a lot of talk about the NBA draft. So it's an awesome time for me. I get so excited. I feel like I'm 18 years old again.
Now, Paul, you've been a part of McDonald's All-American Selection Committee for 15 years, and you've covered the game for ESPN for over 10. How have you seen the game evolve over that time?
Well, the style of play has certainly changed over the decades. But for me, it's the things outside the game, the interviews, the NIL agents. There's just more going on in between the practices, the scrimmage, the dunk competition, and the actual game. Kids are signing autographs. There's tops, basketball cards. So there's all these functions for the kids. Last night there was a boat cruise. They got their McDonald's All-American rings. We went out on the harbor. So there's so much activity, so many events, so much fun. The players get a chance to be celebrated in between all the work. And Alex, the most inspiring thing that goes on here is the players get an opportunity to go to the Ronald McDonald House, to visit with children that are very sick and their families. And the basketball players walk away inspired. They go there to inspire the kids and to encourage, but they leave crying and they leave inspired by the strength of the kids and their families in the Ronald McDonald House, as you well know, are going through some serious life health issues. And the players just did a phenomenal job of spending time interacting with the kids, talking, playing games. It's just a beautiful thing. So I think all those things with the McDonald's All-American game make it special.
You mentioned the players. For viewers tuning in tonight on ESPN. What should they be watching for in the girls' game and then the boys' game after the fact?
When you talk about McDonald's All-Americans, you're talking about the 24 best players in the country voted on by 2 separate committees. So you're getting the best of the best. And these players have a 66% chance on the boys' side to be an NBA prospect, to get drafted by the NBA. NBA scouts ask me all the time, was he a McDonald's All-American when he was coming out of high school? So this game has a lot of prestige to it. For the girls, you have to keep an eye on Aliyah Chavez, the young woman from Oklahoma. She's going to Oklahoma. I'm sorry, she's from Lubbock, Texas, but she's going to Oklahoma. She is the Caitlin Clark of this class.
Wow.
She can really shoot it. She can score it. She plays under control but fearless basketball. She's somebody to really watch. And Jiz Davidson is another girl. I'm really excited about watching her. She's 6'1". She's going to USC. I like everything about her game. Probably the most complete player. And then Sienna Betts, the younger sister of Lauren Betts. They're going to play together at UCLA. So those are the top 3 players on the girls' side. When you get to the boys' side, this may be the best class that I've seen in the last 2 decades. AJ DiBonsa, he is this year's Cooper Flag. He's 6'9". He'll be the number 1 pick in the 2026 NBA draft. He's a LeBron James type of athlete, a Tracy McGrady type of athlete, and there isn't anything he can't do inside the arc. He is a 3-point shooter at times, but I'll tell you what, Alex, exciting, great finisher, big-time energy level, and as I mentioned, he's an NBA athlete. Number 2 on that list is Darren Peterson. He's going to Kansas. AJ DiBonsa is going to BYU, by the way. And Darren Peterson, a 6'6" shooting guard, best recruit Bill Self has ever got, most talented. And then number 3 is Cameron Boozer. He's going to play for Duke. like his dad, Carlos Boozer. And Cameron Boozer is the most fundamentally sound player that I've seen in a long, long time. Reminds me of Paolo Banchero a little bit, and Tim Duncan with his fundamentals.
I love it. Let's get back to one of your responses about how the game has evolved. You've tracked high school recruiting for years, but with the transfer portal becoming so prominent, how do you balance covering both?
It's really hard. The portal has made the workload 5 times more because guys are constantly going in the portal. From high school to the portal, look, you watch film, you go to events live for the high school kids. When it comes to the portal kids, you're watching college basketball pretty much all season long. And I do a lot of mid-major games for ESPN, so I see a lot of these mid-major kids that are moving up in levels. I'll never forget, I was watching Yale play one time, and I really liked Danny Wolf. And 6 months later, he was at Michigan. So by watching the game, by calling games, you get a chance to see a lot of the kids that are in the portal. I also have friends in the business that have, scouting services that I read in terms of portal transfers. Certainly the high school market, I go to the camps, the high schools, all the major events, and having a relationship with college coaches really helps a lot because you get the real intel on who the best players are in every state. Um, I'm not the most organized person in the world, but when it comes to recruiting and the portal, I keep myself organized.
You mentioned you call several college games throughout the season on ESPN. How does being around the college games help you further evaluate the future talent?
That's a great question. It helps tremendously because I'll do ACC games and I'll do games in the Big South, two totally different conferences by talent level. So when you do a college game, it reminds you when you go back and watch the high school game how hard it is for kids to go from high school to college. As a matter of fact, only 1% of the high school senior class goes on to play Division I basketball. Doesn't matter what conference, only 1%. And with the portal and the numbers being so big, that 1% has dropped a little bit. And kids overall, only 5 to 7% go on to play college basketball. So for me, it's a great reminder the grind and the dedication, the physicality that you need, the skill level, the basketball IQ, just to play college ball, and certainly at the Division I level. It's really, really hard. Everyone thinks they can make it, but the numbers are against them.
Now, you've landed some major commitment announcements live on SportsCenter. How did you build those relationships and get those players to choose the ESPN platform?
Being in the gym, being with the prospect, his family, getting to know them, having dinners with them, and just kind of talking about the process when they're ready to make their commitment. That we have a platform at ESPN that we think is the biggest and the best. And Chet Holmgren coming to mind was one recent commitment on SportsCenter. We've had so many over the years, and it's a lot of fun to get to know these kids. That's the fascinating part of it. The scouting is cool, and you love to analyze their game and what they can be better at. But what is really intriguing, Alex, is when you get to know them as people and you get to know their families, and they announce their decision. Whether it's a game on ESPNU or ESPN or on SportsCenter, and now with social media, I think we have a lot to offer at ESPN, and kids want to be on our platform. It's really cool.
Now, Paul, I have two more questions about the games tonight on ESPN. Who is the most underrated player in this year's game that fans should keep an eye on?
Braden Burries from California. He's a top 15 prospect in the country. He probably gets the least amount of attention of all the McDonald's All-Americans. So I'm going to say Braden Burries. He's down to 5 schools: Arizona, Alabama, Oregon, still in his top 5. He's going to make his decision next week, hopefully with us, whether it's ESPN TV or ESPN.com. But he's a guy who's under the radar, and I think he's going to be a star in college basketball. Maybe not right away, but over the course of time. I love his game.
And then one more before we get to my favorite part of the show, the Fuse 5 quick round. Looking ahead, which prospects in the 2025 or 2026 seasons class excites you the most right now?
Well, with 2025, to me, it's really, AJ DiBonsa. That's the guy who does it for me. He's 6'9", and the athleticism, the work ethic, the humble beginnings from Brockton, Massachusetts. He's going to be a star in the NBA, and I think he's going to be an all-star. And Cameron Boozer has always intrigued me so much, Alex. I have not seen a player in all my time as a coach and as a scout with ESPN have a more accomplished resume than Cameron Boozer. He wins everywhere he goes. He's won 4 state championships. He's won 3 grassroots championships. He's won a gold medal with USA Basketball. He was the Gatorade National Player of the Year. He just became the Morgan Wooten Player of the Year. Good timing on this one. So he intrigues me. He excites me. And I think he's going to have a really bright future at Duke and beyond.
All right, Paul, my favorite part of the interview, the Feuz Fast 5 round. Are you ready? 5 quick questions.
Let me take a deep breath. Go ahead.
Okay. Number 1, who's the best player you've seen in person at the McDonald's All-American game? 1 boy, 1 girl.
AZ Fudd for UConn on the girls' side. Anthony Davis on the boys' side.
Both great options. You played for current Knicks coach Tom Thibodeau at Salem State College. What current Knick did your game most resemble?
Well, since I was a walk-on, anybody at the end of his bench that doesn't get in the game, that's who reminds me of me.
You've spent time in both Boston and New York. What's better, Little Italy in New York City or the North End in Boston? And what's your go-to spot for both?
Well, being a Boston guy, I am in New York right now. In Brooklyn, they have great Italian food, but I'm going with the North End in Boston. I'm going with Ristorante Saraceno on Hanover Street. They make a great linguine frutta di mare.
I love it. And then you wanted this one in there, so I'll throw this one in there. Favorite Boston team out of the major 4? Celtics, Red Sox, Patriots, Bruins. If you could choose one, which one would you choose?
It would have to be the Celtics because that's the team that I fell in love with the most. As a native Bostonian, you love all your Boston teams. You live and die with them. You fight for them. But Celtics green, man, Red Auerbach and all the great Celtics from the 70s and 80s and 90s. I could talk about them all day and night. They're my favorite organization, favorite team, and Boston Celtics.
We'll see if David Scott agrees with you on that. You've built strong relationships with players and coaches and analysts throughout your career. If you had to put together your dream lineup to choose 2 people for a podcast, who's on your list and why?
I'm going to go old school with the first one, Larry Bird. Since being a lifelong diehard Boston Celtic fan, I never had a chance to meet Larry Bird. I watched him, countless times live at the old Boston Garden, but I never had a chance to sit down and talk to him. I'd love to pick his brain about coming out of Indiana State, why he didn't go to Indiana and play for Bob Knight, and all his time with the Celtics and Red Auerbach in the championships and all the guys that he played with. And to pick somebody from today's game, I'm going to go Steph Curry. I had a chance to work his basketball camp as a coach a couple of years ago. I could not find a more regular superstar than Steph Curry. He has a lot of wisdom. He's very insightful, and he's very transparent. He's very open, and I think he'd be a fabulous interview.
And Paul, the last one for you, it's tournament time. Who are your picks to win the men's and women's NCAA championships?
On the men's side, I have Florida. I think they're the most complete team. They have the size and the guard play. They have the offense and the defense. And on the women's side, I'm going to go with UConn. They have a 3-headed monster with Paige Beckers. They have AZ Fudd, Sarah Strong, who was the #1 player on the girls' side last year here at McDonald's. UConn for the girls and Florida for the boys.
Love it. Paul, thanks so much for your time today. This was so much fun. Good luck on the call tonight. And I know how excited you are for tonight's game. So thanks for joining us.
Alex, thank you. And yes, this year's crop of McDonald's All-Americans is probably the best that I've seen in the last decade or 2. So if you want to see high-level elite talent for college and the NBA, tonight's McDonald's game is it.
Thanks, Paul. I appreciate it.